In San Jose, California, David Kim sets up an account for her daughter's laptop where they upload all their pictures, videos, and information. After a while, Pamela Nam Kim, David's wife, is diagnosed with lymphoma and dies before their daughter, Margot Kim, enters high school. It's Thursday night, and she spends time at her friend's house doing a group study when David FaceTime her talking about her trash and their supposed dinner. He later asks Margot about her finals, to which she replies it was fine and that her professor wouldn't let her fail. David tells her he's proud but is hesitant to say that Pamela would be too. After that, David's brother, Peter Kim, calls him for a recipe that her late wife used to cook. After their conversation, David looks for the recipe his brother asks for when he sees old videos of Pamela and Margot cooking it. Later that night, Margot attempts to call David 3 times, but he's asleep. The following day, when David wakes up, he sees the missed calls from Margot and tries to call her, but he can't contact her. David continues with her day at work and notices that it has been hours already without any response from Margot. He sees that Margot left her laptop at home, so he tries to call her again, but he only goes directly to her voicemail. David realizes it's Friday, and Margot attends a piano lesson after school. So, he calls her piano instructor, but when he asks for Margot, the instructor informs him that Margot canceled her classes 6 months ago. David then scrolls through their previous conversations. Margot says she had great lessons and kept getting the money his father gave her for piano lessons. After his discovery, he messages Peter and tells him about it. However, Peter says that she might just be tightening around because back when he was still studying, he also did that. Peter suggests calling her friends, but David doesn't know any. So, David searched through her social media, but all her accounts were private. David then went to Pamela's account to see if he could find any of Margot's friends' contact numbers. David finds Isaac Blankensmith's contact number, Margot's best friend growing up. He immediately calls the number, but Isaac's mother is the one who answers. David tells her that he can't contact Margot and then Isaac's mother, possibly because they're in the mountains because of a reception problem. Isaac's mother says Isaac will surely invite her to their camping. She also tells David that they're planning to go home tomorrow morning. The following day, early morning, David receives a phone call, and it's from Isaac. David asks for her daughter, but Isaac then tells him that Margot never came and that he tried to reach out to her, but Margot doesn't respond. After that, David immediately calls the police and reports her daughter as missing. Later, the police connect David to a detective in his area named Detective Sergeant Rosemary Vick. Vick tells him they need to know everything about her, and that's when he decides to go through her account. Vick also says that they will be taking a copy of Margot's hard drive to forensics. While Vick and the police are in their house for investigation, David begins investigating Margot's friends. He tracks down one of them, Jonah Emmy, who says the last time he saw her was Tuesday because her locker was next to his. Jonah also claims to be unaware of the group study because Margot is in AP Biology. Upon David's conversations with her friends, he discovers that she has become a loner since Pamela's death. David then talks to Peter about the investigation. He tells him he has no idea who to talk to with all the names he sees online because Margot has no friends. Peter then suggests checking offline, where David sees a folder containing her classmates in AP Biology. In Margot's school papers, he sees her groupmates for the said study group. So he contacted Abigail Nielsen, who hosted the study group on Thursday night for bio. David tells her that she spent the whole night with Margot, but Abigail says that the study group went only until 9 and that Margot left earlier. Abigail mentions that they're not that close, they're just classmates in biology, and tells him that Margot used to go to Tumblr often. Not long after, Vic calls David to show traffic camera footage of her car, last seen on the road going outside the city. David tells her that her daughter isn't acting like herself, and Vic has an idea. She tells David to expand more on those Margot communicated with and check on her behavior. David then checks her savings account and finds out that Margot has been depositing her piano cash into her checking account every week. And 6 days ago, she made an outgoing transaction of $2,500 to a Venmo account which is now deactivated. David then went through Margot's Instagram account, where he found a suspicious account named Derek Ellis commenting on her pictures. He purchased an application online to be able to find his contact number. When he calls him, Derek says he's at a Bieber concert that night. After that, Vic calls him and sends an email about Margot creating a fake ID under the name of Rachel Jun. Vic claims that when David mentioned Margot acting strangely, she had their forensics team check through any deleted contacts on the backup of her hard drive. One of those contacts was a local forger. The forger said that Margot picked up an ID a few days ago around the same time she withdrew all the money. David wants to know more about what Vic is saying, so Vic tells him that she talked to Venmo security. Vic asked about the account where Margot sent the $2,500 and found out it belonged to Margot. Vic continues to say that she sees it a lot in narcotics and tells him to start considering the possibility that Margot ran away. David needs clarification about what Vic is trying to tell him, so he continues to search through Margot's laptop. There, he discovers that Margot had been using a streaming site called Ucast and befriended a young woman named fish_n_chips. David reports it to Vic, but she says it's another dead end. None of the Ucast users Margot interacted with have a connection with her disappearance, even fish_n_chips. They traced fish_n_chips in Pittsburgh at the time of disappearance. When David is about to shut down Margot's computer, he notices a picture of Barbosa Lake, which Margot frequently visits and is near the highway they last saw her. David goes there immediately and calls Vic to tell her he knows why Margot is on that highway. He says she isn't leaving town but is going to a place she has been going to for the past 5 months. When David reaches Barbosa Lake, Vic, who's now rushing to get there, answers his phone calls. He then shows Vic a Pokemon keychain that belongs to Margot. During the police investigation, they didn't find Margot's body. However, their vehicle examination revealed a small amount of blood on the passenger side dashboard, pointing to a physical altercation. At this moment, they released statements to the press about the situation. They announced that this case is now considered an abduction. Law enforcement immediately arranged a search party, but a storm slowed their process. After the news, a lot of people are talking about it online. Some blame David, while others take advantage of it to get attention online. One post gets the attention of David, and it's from Derek, who claims that Margot is with her. David went to Derek's location, but it turned out to be a flop and ended with a fight. The fight went viral online, and because of this, Vic tells him that he can no longer participate in the investigation. Undeterred, David visits TMZ, which displays the crime scene photographs, and notices Peter's jacket. He then discovers text messages between Margot and Peter, hinting at an incestuous relationship. After that, David went to Peter's house and set up hidden cameras, trying to find proof. When he confronts Peter, Peter explains that they were only smoking marijuana and confiding in each other. He further states that she was in pain after her mother's death and criticizes David for being negligent towards his daughter in her depression. Meanwhile, Vic calls David and tells him that an ex-convict named Randy Kartoff confessed to raping and killing Margot before committing suicide. Meanwhile, a funeral service arranges an empty casket funeral for Margot. Then, as David uploads photos to a funeral streaming site, he notices that the stock photograph features the same woman as fish_n_chips' profile picture. So, David immediately contacts the woman named Hannah Party and says he called her about her daughter because he saw them talking online. Hannah says he might have reached the wrong number because she doesn't know what Ucast is. She will never be there, for she's a talent, not a representative, and she doesn't know Margot. When David asks her if she's a waitress because that's what she told the detectives, Hannah says that she never had a call from the police. David then attempts to call Vic, but he can't reach her, so he tries to contact her by calling the police department. During his conversation with the policewoman, she mentioned that Vic was so invested in this case that she volunteered to handle it. David then says that he believes they assigned her to take it, so David immediately Googles Vic and finds a picture of her with Kartoff. David then learns that she knew Kartoff through a volunteer program for ex-convicts. After that, he requests to be connected to the deputy sheriff and reports this discovery. David then goes to her daughter's vigil and confronts Vic at the funeral. A few minutes later, the police arrive and arrest Vic. 1 week later, Vic is detained and faces interrogation. They ask her to sign a document verifying her confession about the crimes they are charging her. In exchange for that, the district attorney's office will consider leniency on any charges related to the case, including first-degree murder. During the interrogation, Vic says that on that night, she received a phone call from her son, Robert, saying that he had made a mistake and wanted to call 911. Then, Vic meets him near Barbosa Lake, standing on the ravine's edge. Robert said he accidentally pushed a girl off a cliff into a 5-foot-deep ravine. Vic then tells the story of how Robert met Margot. She reveals that he was using the alias fish_n_chips to get close to Margot because he had a crush on her since grade school. So Robert made up a story and a new identity. Then, for 6 months, they were friends. Margot, believing he was a working-class girl whose mother was in the hospital, sent the money to Robert's Venmo account. Robert felt guilty about lying, so he wanted to return the cash to Margot. Because of worrying that Margot could react the wrong way in public, Robert followed her when she went to Barbosa Lake that Thursday night. When he surprised Margot by getting into her car while she was smoking, she screamed and hit him, then ran and called for help. During the scuffle, Robert accidentally pushed her off a cliff. Vic claims her son didn't ask him to cover up the incident. Instead, she decided to push the car into the lake and convince David that Margot had run away by creating a story about the fake ID. During Vic's confessions, the police arrest Robert in their house. On the other hand, Vic says she also tries to go to the ravine, but it's narrow and jagged, which convinces her that Margot is already dead. She also told the law enforcement team that they had already cleared the zone where she knew Margot's body was. After David went to the crime scene and found Margot's keychain and her car submerged in the lake, Vic turned Kartoff and staged his confession to make the investigation stop. The officer then asks her if the suicide was real, to which Vic answers that it is for her son because she knows what the prison will do to him. David asks Vic where Margot's body is, and she tells him Margot's still in the ravine but that even if she survived the fall, she couldn't have lived 5 days without water. David then tells the police to turn around, pointing out the storm that occurred on the third day of the search that would have provided Margot with water. The search for Margot is revitalized after Vic provides the authorities with her exact location. Not long after, the rescue crew discovers Margot severely injured but alive. 2 years later, Margot applied for college to major in piano. David tells her that Pamela would have been proud of her, something he couldn't tell her earlier. Eventually, Margot changes her desktop picture to her and David's picture, indicating a closer relationship between her and David. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.